Revelation 12:14 says, "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent." Again, that should clue you in. A time, times, and half a time. A time is 1, times is 2, and a half, that's 3.5 years. So again, we're talking about the Great Tribulation. Here we're talking about the second half of the Great Tribulation, when the intensity of persecution increases, exponentially during that second 3.5 year. That's when the mark of the beast will roll out, when Satan declares himself to be God. We'll cover that next time. And the church's only option at this point is to flee, is to run. People ask, what do we do if we're here when the tribulation starts? What can you do but run and flee and hide and flee into the wilderness and just simply try to survive? You will not be able to make it in civilization. They'll have their tracking devices, their drones, their technology, everything. You'll have Nazis everywhere ratting people out. We saw that during COVID. That was just a little preview. It's no exaggeration that we dealt with Nazis during COVID. That's what this was all about. That's what the EU is about. That's what NATO is about. That's what they're all doing in the West. Putin is right about NATO and the West. They are the Nazis today in our time. Okay, and it's all through this globalist, elitist type of stuff. And I'm not saying Putin's a nice guy either. Okay, don't get me wrong. All right, he'll destroy America if he could. He would probably destroy America with China's help if he could. But he's right. We've put all of our military on their border in Ukraine. We want Ukraine to join NATO and all this, and we're pushing all this Nazi propaganda, COVID propaganda, vaccine passports, all this stuff. It's a mess, and that's what we're seeing. We've become the bad guys here. And so, what can you do in the midst of all that but run, flee, hide? And so Jesus said in the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24:15 through 16, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." So Jesus says, when you see that time when Satan and the Antichrist appear in the temple and declare themselves to be God, that flee. He's like, run to the wilderness. So all you can do is, grab your bug out bag and head into the wilderness, away from society, away from the Antichrist and his minions, and those left-wing lunatics who will turn you in, just like we saw them do during COVID. And so the second half is when the Antichrist rolls out the mark of the beast and the persecution of the church ramps up severely. And so I believe, and this is just my personal view, I believe that will be something like 40, 50, 60 days into the second half of the Great Tribulation when God will cut that time short and rescue us out of the Great Tribulation. Jesus said in Matthew 24:22, "And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." So sometime after the second half, whether it's 50, 60 days, I don't know exactly, but it will be cut short. We just simply don't know the exact number of days, but that time will be cut short. And so we'll endure through the first 3.5 years of wars and famine and death and persecution. Then in the second half, we'll see the mark of the beast and have to live off grid, but God will cut that time short pretty early on, I believe, into that 3.5 years. So you just have to hold out, for a bit and try to survive. And if you survive, it says those that are alive and remain until that time shall be caught up together with them, will be raptured out during that time, those who are alive and remain during the tribulation. He who endures to the end, the same shall be saved. And so it's almost like a mid-trib position, going into the second, but it's not exactly mid-trib. It's going in. We will go into the second half of the tribulation, but that time will be cut short. Sometime in the midst of that tribulation,